Welcome to REI University with Chris Mers, your premier destination for real estate investing insights. Join us as we chat with industry guests about their journey to success, highlighting the highs and lows of their real estate ventures. Get ready to learn from the pros and take your investing game to the next level. Eric.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming out to the podcast and doing this with me, man.
Excited to be here.
Hell yeah. So I know Eric as an Oregon native.
Yep.
Grew up in Eastern Oregon on a big farm, thousands of acres. You'll have to remind me how big. Married, have 5 kids.
Combined
5 kids.
Modern day Brady Bunch. For you younger people, ask your parents what that is.
And a real estate developer.
Yes.
And so you focus on the middle housing code.
Yep.
And really focus on, triplex, fourplex, sixplex, and cottage clusters.
ADU.
And ADUs.
Yeah.
Yes. So before you became a real estate developer, who was Eric?
So you're right, I grew up in a small town in Eastern Oregon out by Pendleton called Hefner. It will soon be a 5th generation working cattle ranch. My brother runs and his son run about 2,000 head of cattle,
Whoa.
beef cattle. And I was the youngest brother with hay fever in a house in the middle of an alfalfa field. So when people say, well, why weren't you working on the ranch? So that is the big reason. I went to Oregon State University.
Okay.
Followed footsteps going all the way back to my grandfather when it was the Oregon Agricultural College Coyotes.
I had no idea about that history.
We're now the Beavers. And after college, got into a sales career in the tech space.
Okay.
Wound up in New York for about 5 years. And it was software, and then it was CD-ROMs. Again, ask your parents. And then it was the internet.
Okay.
And with some other colleagues, we had a startup internet healthcare company that we raised a bunch of money in the internet boom, rode down the bust, and eventually sold it to WebMD.
Wow.
And
Okay, so pause there.
Yeah.
We just went really fast.
Yeah.
So let's back up a little bit. Okay, so your childhood on this acreage in Hefner.
Yeah.
How much acreage?
Between leased and owned, it's about 120,000.
So how long does it take to drive from one side of the property to the other?
It's like Yellowstone. We have helicopters. How long does it take to ride a horse?
Yeah. And
it is, if it were all lumped together, I think it would be something like 10 miles by 10 miles,
okay.
So 100 square miles,
okay.
But don't quote me on my acreage math.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And you said you have one brother.
And
who runs
the ranch.
Any other siblings?
Sister who's retired living in Walla Walla.
Okay.
Great place to visit.
Yeah.
Great wine.
If you like the wine, yeah, totally. And their downtown is beautiful.
Very cool.
It is.
It's like a small bend.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was it like growing up on a farm? And were you just really like the work hands, or I don't know, what's the appropriate term to use
Child
here?
labor?
Yeah.
I took sheep to the fair, the first year, and I was probably 8, and you take your sheep to the fair and then you auction them off, and then they go to the butcher, and that was a very traumatic experience.
Yeah.
Until I got the check that somebody bought this sheep, and so the next year I took 2 sheep to the fair. Small school, there were 45 people in my graduating class. In high school, I got to play 4 different varsity sports, not because I was any good, you can see from my stature, but just because if you turned out for the team, you got to play.
Yeah.
It's a great little town. It's kind of one of the more famous little towns. A lot of people go, oh, I've been to Hefner. when they say that, I think they've just seen the sign as you're driving on 84, kind of by Arlington and Hermiston. There's a bunch of signs where you can turn and go south to Heppner, but it's right in the foothills of the Blue Mountains. So really beautiful.
That's awesome. And so your brother ended up taking over the farm, and he now runs it.
He does.
And lives there with his family.
Yep, and my nephew will be next in line.
That's amazing. His son?
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. So how was it growing up on a farm with 2 siblings and in a small town? I mean, tell me more about that.
You know, it's interesting, not to get political or anything, but you know, at the time everybody drove pickup trucks, and there were guns in your gun rack because after school you would go shoot pheasants or deer or whatever, and you know,
small town.
Yeah, and you also, you know, you see things like school shootings, and it's just crazy what the world has become. That never would have happened there because they would have been outmanned right away. It was old-fashioned work ethic. You worked on the ranch when it was calving season or lambing season. You know, that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you know, we would go out and bring lambs into the barn after they'd dropped in the snow, you know, at the corral outside the house, and put them in a little pen and make sure the mother had milk, and it was really cool.
Wow.
And my wife is from about an hour away, so kind of that same.
That's how you guys
work
bonded.
Ethic. Yeah, for sure.
So what did you guys produce? Or it sounds like alfalfa, sounds like lamb, sounds like cows. What else did you guys have on the farm?
Wheat.
Okay.
And a lot of deer, a lot of birds, a lot of elk.
Yeah.
You know, those things, not that you're raising them, but they're out there.
And on your own farm, you can get, like, you don't have to get a tag, right? An elk tag to shoot.
You do, but,
okay.
but they kind of hand them out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
And now the ranch is actually very diversified. There's hunting revenue, there is agricultural revenue, there's cattle revenue, there is timber revenue, and there's even carbon credits.
How do you get carbon credits?
Because if you have land up in the mountains that has old growth timber, and if you manage it appropriately, companies that are trying to be, you know, carbon neutral can buy credits for you managing it and not cutting it down.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And there's wind and solar, you know, miles away. It's kind of all coming. So,
wow.
To be a ongoing ranch, you know, you need to
diversify.
Yeah, it's a real business. So, yeah.
And how many houses are on it?
I'll bet you there's a dozen houses scattered around, including some that my great-grandfather built.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wild.
Yeah.
So how often do you go back there?
Oh, we get back. My parents, thankfully, are in their late 80s and very healthy. They're in Portugal right now. But we go back and visit them probably every 2 or 3 months.
That's great.
I've got a bird dog, loves to go out there, and he knows that as soon as we hit about Cascade Locks, where he's going, and we'll constantly ask for the window to be rolled down about every 10 minutes. So.
I know where we're going. This is going to be fun. Oh, that's great. Okay. So then after high school, what college did you attend?
Oregon State.
Oregon State, yeah.
Which was really the only option for somebody in my family at the time. I secretly wanted to be an architect, but does anybody know where the architecture school is in the state of Oregon?
Isn't it U of O?
University of Oregon.
Yeah, so that was not an option. So,
Same.
yeah. So went to Oregon State, started off as an industrial engineer, and freshman spring term physics class put a quick end to my engineering aspirations, and I became a business major.
Smart.
Pre-business is what they call engineering at Oregon State. So.
Oh, that's great. Okay. And then how did you end up out in New York?
So I had a professor who was my senior year teaching a Salesforce class, and he was a full-time business unit manager at Hewlett-Packard in their Corvallis operation. And really interesting class. I contacted him to get advice after I graduated on what to do, and he said, well, if you can wait about a month, I'm about ready to hire a VP of sales for a software company that I'm going to be running, and as he was leaving HP. And so I was the first salesperson hired for a company called Central Point Software that made a product called PC Tools, and they had backup software and antivirus software that got licensed to Microsoft, and they put it in the operating system. And at the time, it was the second largest private software company in the US behind WordPerfect. Ask your parents.
I don't remember WordPerfect.
WordPerfect was the first word processor.
Oh.
So there was Lotus was the spreadsheet, and WordPerfect was
Microsoft Word.
Yeah, and Microsoft eventually put it all into their Office suite.
Wild.
So, yeah.
And
they moved a bunch of us, almost all Oregon State grads, that were fresh scrubbed, 23, 24 years old, out to New York and Chicago and San Francisco and LA and Atlanta and DC to go start selling our software to big corporations in our respective territories.
Wild.
Yeah.
That must have been such a crazy ride.
Yeah.
And so,
More people on my block than cattle on the ranch.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so, this must have been a big lifestyle shift, going from a very small town, then going to Corvallis,
still
right?
A small town.
Still smaller, to New York City, like the hub, of the United States, and being part of this .com boom.
Yeah.
So what year?
Well, not .com, just software at the time.
Just software.
Yeah,
okay.
This was 1991.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wild.
Pre-internet.
Crazy.
And sold to ad agencies and banks and consumer product goods companies. Just all these big headquartered companies on the East Coast.
And so, did you realize how big computers were going to be at the time? Like, did you guys comprehend that?
It was really interesting. We were kind of on, not the cusp, it had happened, but companies like Apple and companies like Microsoft, and they were not huge companies yet.
Yeah.
They've probably recently gone public, and they're starting to do things, but there wasn't yet a computer on everybody's desk like there is now.
Yeah.
But it was taking off, and our software was kind of going along for the ride.
Well, and also, like, in your early 20s, you don't really sometimes stop and think like, oh my gosh, this is crazy to be a part of this, I would assume, right? You're just like, oh, this is awesome. Like, the money's good, and
living in New York, and
like, this is fun.
Is a fun place to live.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Was there any culture shock going from small town to New York City for you?
Sure. Yeah, was there? Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah.
And my stepson, my wife's son, is now 26, living in Brooklyn, and almost exactly doing the same thing that I was doing, the same age, the same type of company, the same size of company. He was like employee number 35, which I was kind of roughly that. Now the company has 100 people, and it's really fun to see the parallels.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and what he's doing, it's leaps and bounds above what we were doing.
Yeah.
So.
But the technology is improved,
yeah,
right?
we were
That's
just trying
all
to
it
back
is.
up your data on a floppy disk. So.
And that's the main thing that you guys were focused on. Is
File man. It was called utility software. For those of you who are familiar with Norton.
antivirus?
Yeah, so they direct competition and McAfee, and there were three big players in the market at the time, and ultimately Norton got bought by Symantec, and Symantec bought the company that we were. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, did you know, like, going into business, you were like, hey, I want to hop into software?
I wanted a sales job, and I wanted to be a stockbroker, and I had an internship at Merrill Lynch downtown, and the office manager, the director, said, go get a sales job to get about a year's worth of sales experience, and then you can come on. And that's when I called my professor to get a sales job.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be a 20-year technology sales business development career.
Yeah, and never went back to Merrill Lynch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, that was a good move, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the software that turned into CD-ROMs that turned into the internet, and literally we're riding the bubble on the internet boom, and we raised money down in the Bay Area, Sand Hill Road, which is all where the big venture capital companies are, and saw the people that had invested in all these companies and literally are now billionaires. There's people that worked at our company that went on to big investment companies that are multi $100 million and billionaire people.
Crazy.
So super talented group of people around.
That's wild. Okay, so what was it like when do you recall them saying, hey, the internet's, because you're right in the middle of this, well, the internet becomes a thing. Was there a specific moment where you're like, oh my, or a news release, yeah, the internet's out, go try it, or tell me about what that looked like from your perspective.
And I'm trying to, it was the AOL first, right? And it was basically, kind of a tame and encapsulated internet.
And dial-up.
Dial in,
it was all dial-up.
Access to all of this information.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of happened, where all these websites started proliferating. And I don't even know if you really noticed it. It just kind of happened. And, if you had the crystal ball and could go back, you go buy all these domain names, right?
Yeah.
You buy, cars.com and, just everything like that. And when I moved back to Portland and was working for the CD-ROM company, that's really where we saw it, because at the time, when you would buy your compact computer, your IBM or your HP, there was no internet, so there was no content. So the content came on the CD-ROM.
I remember, yeah.
And we were publishing reference titles and licensing content from big publishing companies. So we had a Sports Illustrated Encyclopedia of Sports. We had the Blockbuster Movie Guide and the Billboard Magazine Music Guide. And we had Dr. Ruth's Guide to Sex on CD-ROM. And she actually, I met, before I moved back to Portland and I started with this company, she came to my Christmas party.
Really?
In New York City. And you could never see her, but you could always just see a huddle of about 10 people looking down.
Oh, because she was pretty small?
Literally, she was like 4'8" or something like that. And despite all of these big name titles, our best-selling CD-ROM was the only unbranded one. It was called The Family Doctor. And it was a medical reference guide. And the doctor that we'd published, and a doctor came to us and he said, I've got this health tool called HQ, or Health Quotient, it's a health risk assessment.
Okay.
It'll tell you how healthy you are. And he wanted to license it to us to put on the CD-ROM, and myself and another colleague, kind of said, no, I think what we want to do is put it up on the internet, and went over and started a separate company.
Oh, really?
To do that, yeah.
So you guys branched off and started your own thing. What was the name of that company?
That was called WellMed.
Okay.
And it was headquartered here in Portland, and we grew that up, raised about $40 million back in the day when the internet was selling dollar bills for 90 cents. That literally was the model, and you'd make it up in volume. And trying to figure out what the business model is, but that's what everybody was trying to do. And we would license our health management tools to insurance plans and employers and other health websites, and grew that company up to about 150 people, and ultimately sold it to WebMD. So.
Wild.
But after the market crashed, it was not a get rich and retire sort of thing. So the internet boom and then bust.
So right after, what was that, 2001?
25 cents on the dollar.
Oh.
Yeah.
God. So How old were you when you went and raised $40 million?
I was late 20s.
Had you ever raised capital before?
No.
And this is you and your partner?
Yeah, and he was the CEO. And
okay.
To his credit, he was more the point person. I would come along and carry the slide deck.
Got it. And he had the contacts? Or you both had the contacts?
Just networked and figured it out. Everybody was doing something on the internet. So, and the investors were looking for the next big thing.
That's crazy. And I would have assumed then you guys, being in the internet world, you had already met going down to Silicon Valley and whatnot.
Sure.
Met a bunch of people that are investors in that realm.
And ultimately, Intel invested. They had an investment arm, and so it was really big, interesting companies that were on the forefront. We were a very small investment for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, they still saw something in you if you were able to raise $40 million. In your mid to late 20s to be able to, I don't know many people that can say they raised $40 million at that age.
Unlike real estate, I think the venture capital play is, they spread their money out knowing that 90% of the deals are never going to make money.
Right. Yeah. But it's the moonshot.
It's the one that, makes 100,000x return on their money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We were part of the 90%.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's fair. Well, wild. So you guys after the dot-com boom, sold that for 25 cents on the dollar.
To WebMD.
To WebMD.
Yep.
And now you're like, shoot, we just sold our company. I don't know what to do. Do you take a break? What'd you do?
Working for WebMD. So
got it.
Took a job with WebMD. They offered it, and I became a business development person for WebMD, which was selling pharmaceutical sponsorships for the most part on the website. So WebMD was the biggest fish in the sea. Everybody knows them. They're in pop culture, and you look it up, and you're all going to die. Because
exactly. Don't look it up.
And so I was essentially selling sponsorships to pharmaceutical companies to put on the website.
For ad space on the sides.
Ad space and sponsorship space. And we would do advertorial, we would create editorial content around their topic, and then they would have their ads surrounding it. And did that for 9 years, and primarily on a plane in New York and Philadelphia.
Was that the ones that used to, the pop-up ads where it's like you had to keep clicking X for them to go away, but they wouldn't? It's like, go away, go away, go away.
Aren't those things still there?
Yeah, I don't know.
We did not.
Okay, thanks. That's good. All right, so, and did you have?
You're trying to tie this into real estate. It's like,
well, we'll get there eventually. We'll get there. So, at what point did you meet your wife?
So, second wife, is the one I'll talk about.
Yep.
So, I got divorced maybe about 14 years ago.
Okay.
Moved into Oak Hills, over by Sunset High School out in Beaverton, which is, if you don't know Oak Hills, and if you have kids, or if your kids are going to have kids, have them buy a place in Oak Hills. It is a truly special place right out of the 1950s and 60s. It's 650 homes. They've got a private swimming pool, rec center, community center. There's a church in there. It has its own elementary school. It has a 30-acre park.
Yeah, the park is huge.
Yeah, and when I'm walking the dog in the morning, I will see first graders with backpacks that weigh as much as them walking by themselves to school, and you just don't see neighborhoods like that anymore.
No.
But I moved into that neighborhood after I got divorced, and a mutual friend and she also moved into the neighborhood. We decided to put on a 4th of July party, and she told me that one of her girlfriends was interested in me, and she had invited her to the 4th of July party.
Yeah.
And me being somewhat confident, and a guy doesn't question that a girl I'd never met would. Why wouldn't she be interested?
Yeah, of course.
Look at me.
Ah, jeez, I'm Eric.
And meanwhile, she's telling her girlfriend that the guy she's hosting the July 4th party with is interested in her.
Oh, that's funny.
So she played us both. And so I, long story short, got her phone number and courted her for several months before we became an item.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. I think when I introduced myself, I was so confident because I knew she liked me. I introduced myself, she returned that, and then turned around and walked away. Yeah, true story.
She's playing hard to get.
So I kept at it. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's great. Well, it sounds like your friend was playing Cupid almost.
She was. Yeah, she was a matchmaker.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I love it. So, in your previous marriage, you both had already had some kids, or was she divorced as well?
My first wife came built in with 2 kids.
Okay.
They were 1 and 3 when I met them.
Got it.
And then we had a 3rd kid together.
Got it.
So that's how I got my 3, and then my wife today, she had 2 kids.
Got it.
So that's where the 5 come from.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Right on.
And we have a dog that makes for the full 6 kids out of the Brady Bunch.
So what's the age ranges of all 5 kids now?
Oldest will be 31 this year, and the youngest just turned 24.
Okay. That's pretty compact for...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they knew of each other in high school because they all went to the same high school.
Fun.
Yeah, but weren't friends, per se.
Yeah. Right on. And when you moved to Oak Hills, at what point in the career path? I'm trying to understand kind of where that fell in. And
if you go back about 20 years ago, I was still at WebMD, but the job was a little bit on autopilot. And I had a mortgage broker that I had worked with on a couple of houses, and he knew that I was interested in the real estate space. And this was 2005. And for those of you who look back historically, 2005, the market is booming. There are anybody can get a loan, anybody can buy a house. And
you just have to say how much money you make. That's all. Just tell me how much money you make. You make 20 grand a year? No, you make 100 grand a year.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
You can get the loan.
And so he came to me and in some conversations, he had a lot in Overlook, kind of over by the Adidas campus. It was already permitted to build a new house on it. And he kind of wrapped up with a bow around it a construction loan. So I came to closing with, I think, $1,000 out of pocket.
What?
To buy the lot, to buy the permits, and to have the construction funds.
That's crazy.
And had a friend who was a GC and built a single-family home that sold about halfway through construction, and made plenty of money on it. And I thought, like we all do, like you do with your fourplex, this is easy. So the next year I bought another property over in Selwood and kind of did the same thing, was building it, wrapped it up in about Thanksgiving time, right when the real estate market crashed. And so we sat on that a little longer than the first one, but it taught a very valuable lesson in terms of if you're going to get in the real estate market to sell, you need a long enough runway from a profit margin standpoint to withstand surprises, because it's never always good. As we know today, the market is in the 3rd year of a historically all-time low sales volume throughout the country. So we ultimately got it sold. We made a little bit of money, not a lot of money on it. And that was right then in the middle of the great crash.
So at this point, are you still working another job? Is this kind of your side thing?
Still working at WebMD.
Still working at WebMD and just doing this.
One house the first year, one house the second year, 2 houses the third year, 4 houses the fourth year, still, working my day job, and was on track to do 6 or 7 when I did the math that I think I can replace my W-2 income.
Wow.
And made the leap and had started the company already, but left and got into it full time.
So you still continue to scale even through the crash?
Yeah, but I mean, from 1 to 2, 2 to
right.
2 to 4, 4
but
to 6.
Still,
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So during that second year, you did 2, and that's when the market crashed, is what you're saying?
Yeah, second year I did 1, and that was the one, right? And,
got it.
The next 4 or 5 years were all in a very depressed market.
So how did you shift your business model going through that?
There was no money to lend, and there were very few buyers. So we would buy lots speculatively in great neighborhoods, primarily in Selwood at the time, and we would then list them because there were plenty of properties for sale and dilapidated homes that nobody was buying, and we knew them to be a teardown. And then we would immediately put them up on the market as a custom build to suit. We curated a few plans. We bid that out. We knew what it was cost, and we could say, we will sell you this plan for X amount, or we'll work with you on your own plan. And primarily over those 4 or 5 years, they were people's 3rd or 4th home, and they were paying cash because there were no bank loans out there for construction. And so we were building custom homes on spec lots that we'd purchased.
So you weren't building the houses and selling the spec homes. You were waiting for a buyer to come in, and then you do the construction.
Exactly.
Got it.
And as we did 2 and then 4, and then in that next year, and we started to get enough of a comfort zone in it, we started a mix of spec homes and the customs.
Well, and that also reduces your risk profile significantly.
Well, with the pre-solds, for
right,
sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that made you guys feel comfortable with
and that
building.
was at the time when you could buy a lot in Portland and Selwood for $200,000, and today that same lot would be $500,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. The economics have changed dramatically.
Well, and years ago, 10 years ago, a lot of builders were just buying those houses that were 1 story, and then they were building the 2nd story.
Adding to it.
Right, adding to it and building a 2nd story, and now that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, and the new code limits the size of new construction houses in Portland too. So there's a cap on the square footage that you can build. It's a formula called FAR, floor area ratio.
Yeah. And
if you're in your standard R5 zone in Portland, which is your 50 by 100 lots, it's 0.5. So that means you can only build a 2,500 square foot house above grade, including the garage.
Right.
Where you used to, the old McMansion days, which really spurred a lot of the new middle housing code debate, people were building 4,000 square foot homes right next to a single level cottage, in all of these east side neighborhoods of Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when is it that you got introduced to the middle housing, and how did that kind of transpire?
Yeah, so I was active and still am in the local HBA, the Home Builders Association, and this goes back, how many years? It was Charlie Hales that was the mayor then. And due to neighborhood pushback on these larger homes that were being built, 2.5 stories next to the little single-story houses, there was a lot of neighborhood pushback. And, they were out of place. They didn't fit within the context of the neighborhood. They were cutting down trees and blocking solar access to the little houses. And so Mayor Hales convened his team in development services to rewrite the Infill building code in Portland. And part of that was a 25-member advisory board from the community. And I got involved on that through the HBA, one of 3 or 4 builders. And it was also made up of neighborhood advocates, affordable housing, organizations, architects, a lot of special interests that were in there. And quite frankly, I got involved because I was building kind of the McMansions, and I wanted to protect my business and make sure we could continue to build those. So that was the motivation for getting in on the committee. And lo and behold, about 22 or 23 of the members of the committee came back with this idea that we need to be able to build duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes and cottages and more ADUs, and this whole idea of middle housing and missing middle housing is for decades. The code said if you were in a single family zone, you could only build one house. And if you're in a multifamily zone, you're building these, the 3, 4, 5, 6-story apartment buildings that we see. Right. But there was this consensus coming out of the committee to have greater housing diversity. And I saw the writing, on the wall coming out of that the light bulb was these lots that are increasingly getting more and more expensive in Portland. If we can put 2 houses on it, or 3 or 4 houses, the economics
make a lot more sense.
Better.
Yeah.
And before the code came out, we started experimenting with ADUs because the ADU code had been around forever. And so if you've got an existing house, you add an ADU to it, then you use the condo code to split the house separate from the ADU, sell them separately. And we did our first one of those in 2020. And it was wildly successful. And it's like, okay, I think there's a market here.
I had no idea you were on the committee.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We were talking with Vic Remmers was on the committee, and there were 3 or 4 builders on it.
That's really cool. So you were instrumental in putting it together and creating it.
Yeah, I wasn't instrumental in protecting my McMansion.
But and so beyond obviously the economics of it makes a lot more sense. Like, how do you feel about now the affordability, being able to provide products to people that otherwise may not be able to buy in this location?
Yeah, I'd like to think that we have the ability to change kind of what our values are and kind of what we see as being important. 2/3 of our homes are sold to first-time home buyers right now.
Wow.
And the feedback that we get from them, just in terms of the excitement of being able to own a home, they love it being a brand new home that has very, very small utility bills. And if you dial it back even further, I've got 5 kids that are between 24 and 31 that aren't necessarily pursuing really high-paying jobs. I'd like to think that they could afford to buy a home in Portland, where they grew up. And, so that is a big part of what we do, is making housing more affordable for people that traditionally haven't been able to afford a home, especially since COVID. We've all seen what's happened with home values, and then you add on top of that interest rates, and we're at an all-time low from an affordability standpoint.
Well, I mean, it sounds like for your family, you just need to build a cottage cluster just for your family. Everybody can move into one, and we'll live. Exactly.
So, we actually are doing a custom project for 4 families, where they bought an existing house on a big lot in Southeast, and we're adding 3 new houses to it, and they've got a bunch of shared common space and storage spaces and gardens, and it's really very satisfying.
Yeah.
To
So is it like the parents and all the kids are going to move in?
And the kids, and then 2 other families that are the same age as the kids.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So really.
I haven't heard of anything like that before.
Yeah, so really cool.
Yeah.
Most of the middle housing, ourselves included, is kind of maximizing density to make the economics work.
Right.
But in some of these bigger lots in Coley and out in Southeast where you do have, big backyards, it's cool when you've got a client that wants to not maximize density, but
specialize it for their needs.
A space for themselves. Yeah.
That's awesome. So going up, you're scaling, you said, oh gosh, I can finally leave my WebMD job, leave my W-2 and start my own thing. You're building these, you kind of shift then into these McMansions, it sounds like, after you're building these spec custom builds.
Terms, not ours. So,
right? Yeah. And at what point, like as you're building those, how many years did you do that for?
So first house was 2005. So about early 2011, 2012 is when I went into it full time.
Got it.
And for 8-9 years, we're building primarily single family homes.
Got it.
Yeah, in Portland.
And these are not buying the lot and then selling the lot and saying, hey, pick your own custom. You're building these.
At this point, we start
spec
to build
builds.
on spec,
Right.
or we're doing custom homes for clients that came to us.
Got it.
Yeah.
And are these in specific neighborhoods in Portland? Because I know you focused initially in
Inner East Side,
Okay.
primarily Southeast up into Northeast and into North Portland.
Okay, so mainly on the east side.
Mainly, yeah.
Okay, why not on the west side?
Just the houses that we were really good at, you've got flat lots, you've got all the infrastructure in Portland, the utilities are in the street, the curb and the sidewalk is there,
Yeah.
the walkability is there. You get out onto the west side and you're dealing with less than robust infrastructure. Sometimes you have to, if you're building a house, you've got to go in and improve the streets and the sidewalks. We've all been around Southwest Portland and you see the parts that aren't improved. Or you've got to bring the infrastructure in, or you're dealing with sloped lots and trees. And yeah, we just got really good at these infill lot building.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So since you've been building these out, what has been your favorite part of, because I know this is now your main focus.
100%.
Right? Yeah. And how many have you built of these middle housing?
Since we did our first ADU in 2020, up until this year, we've probably done about 110, 120, what I would call middle housing units, 800 to 1,000 square feet that have sold anywhere from high 300s to mid 500s, depending on location.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's not many people building these in Portland. I know there is one guy that's built a lot of them that saturated the market a lot.
There's a couple big builders that are maybe churning out about 100 plus a year, and then there's 2 or 3 what I would say mid-size builders, which is where I would classify us, that are doing 30 or 40 a year.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what has been your favorite part about being in this world? Because I know it's a business shift from building, these larger houses to now. I
mean, you talk about just the feedback you get from buyers. And, they're divorced parents that have to move out of a house, but they want to stay in their neighborhood. And they've got a kid part-time, and I know that space. They're first-time home buyers. I've got kids that appeal to that, that is something that they would strive for. And you've got empty nesters, people that need a safer home that doesn't have all of the upkeep as they move on. And so it's really these buyers that come in and you can deliver exactly what they were looking for, and feel really good about it. And all the while, I think we've created a look and feel of our product, and people now kind of know that that's one of our products when they go by, as opposed to some of the other stuff that might be a little more cookie cutter.
I mean, your product's beautiful. You do a wonderful job.
Yeah, thank you.
So you mentioned divorce.
Sure.
Are you comfortable talking about that?
Sure.
Okay. So you had how old were your kids when you and your first wife, or you and your first wife divorced?
Senior in high school, junior in high school, and 5 years younger than that would be sixth grader.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that?
Brutal.
I'm sure.
Yeah. When you tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of crush their lives.
Yeah. Totally. It's I just seen that now from my perspective of having young kids, so yeah, tell me kind of where you were at in your life right at that point, business wise, and then kind of what was going on, and if you don't mind sharing.
Had really just left the day job, so you've got this unknown of starting a new company, and now you've got an unknown family life.
Oh, God.
And I think the lesson that I would pass along to anybody that that is in a similar situation is keep your kids at the forefront.
Yeah.
It's not about you and your spouse or soon to be ex-spouse. And my current wife and I both did that, I think, in a really solid way, and it pays dividends, over years. The kids aren't the ones who are getting a divorce.
Yeah.
They're just looking for stability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the biggest thing that you changed? You said you kind of made that focus. Was there like something that you specifically said, hey, this is something that I'm now gonna?
I think it was just being present. When I got divorced, right as I was still working the day job and was trying to ramp up a business, and I was traveling and wasn't there.
Yeah.
And a big reason for starting the company and moving full-time was so that I wouldn't be on a plane.
Totally.
Cross country and missing things that were happening in the kids' lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Something that Brandon Turner said that has stuck with me. The only people that will remember that you worked late are your kids, right? And that just like kills me. Yes, there are some nights that you have to do it, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, you don't have to do that. Send that one last email. Like, it can wait. You get home like that. I think about that a lot.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
Yeah. And we all struggle with that, right? And especially when we have young kids, we have these, yes, we want to be amazing parents for our children and be there for this very, special part of their life, right? As well as grow a business and support, provide for our family. And so which they almost butt heads, right? And it's always like a constant struggle that I have, especially as an entrepreneur,
Sure.
right? And I think we all struggle with that.
And I'm kind of fortunate at this stage of my life, all the kids are out of the house. 4 of them are in different states. 1 of them is in a different country, so I can devote that time and energy to the business and to my relationship with my wife.
Totally. It's a different season of life.
Yeah.
Right?
And to our dog.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Probably a better parent to the dog than I was when the kids were really young.
I doubt that. I'm sure you're an amazing dad. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. So I'd love to hear, we'll open it up to the group here in a few minutes.
Sure.
But I'd love to go through each of your family members. So all 5 of your kids and your wife.
Yeah.
And you tell me what is it that you love most about each of them?
Wow. Okay. This will be on film too, right?
Yeah.
My wife is the most understanding, chill, caring mom that could be there. She's like the mom to all of our kids and all of their friends.
Yeah.
She's the one that makes me look good. She sends the birthday presents and she buys the stocking stuffers and she remembers everybody's anniversary and sends the cards out, and you know, she makes me look good. And she has health insurance. Important. My son Jacob is the oldest.
Okay.
Just going through all of his certification to be a firefighter.
Awesome.
So, you know, back your first career.
Yeah.
And is the sneaky, funniest person I know. You have to be paying attention. It's very cerebral and very down low. And then Tracy and I both have a 28, 29-year-old daughter this year, living in Nashville, who are best friends. And in the middle of COVID, they had the audacity to move cross country to a place they had never lived in.
Wild.
And create a new life. And they have a podcast, Divorce Kids Talking About Divorce, which is really cool and sometimes very scary.
Yeah.
So the last names of the three kids are Savinar, Harvey, and Thompson. Does anybody know the big Harvey Marine out in Hillsboro, Iowa, with the big bunny rabbit? So that is my oldest two kids' grandfather.
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Harvey. But so Savinar, Harvey, and Thompson, S-H and T. So we call ourselves the Shats. And yes, I know what that is, the past tense of. And so their podcast is called Shat Chat.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
It's a legit podcast. So they're on Spotify and Apple, and it's well produced. And
wow.
If you know, and I think it's more relevant for parents than kids. If anybody in divorce, give it a listen.
Yeah.
So, and they're just awesome and brave and cool. And one of them is the exact opposite of me, my daughter, and Hannah is a mini-me. So, Zach is, I want to be Zach when I grow up. He's the 26-year-old living in Brooklyn. He looks like JFK Jr. He is great in sports and is doing the, you know, he's reliving my life, you know, 30 some odd years ago. And I will not forgive him, though, for recruiting my youngest son to U of O.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the youngest grandkid out of the entire family, you know, and, you know, my parents and everybody went to Oregon State. He went to U of O. So.
That's funny.
Yeah, you know, and so the youngest one, God, what I love about him is he's the only one who really followed my advice that when you graduate from college, go travel, do whatever you want before you get into a career. And I kind of preach, I have a saying about keep your bag light. You know, so anything you put into your life, into your bag, whether it's a relationship or a pet or a car payment or a house or a job, you know, all of those things you get to pack around. And the heavier your bag is, you know, the more difficult it is to maneuver around.
Yeah.
And so you'd better be very purposeful about anything you put in your bag. And, you know, hand in hand with that, I encouraged them all to go travel and whatever. And so the last year and a half, he's been in Steamboat, Colorado, working for the resort.
Oh, I was going to say, I hope so.
And the mountain, obviously, it's not ski season in Colorado right now. So he, with three of his friends, just moved to New Zealand.
Whoa.
for the winter so that they can continue to work on the mountain and
That's awesome.
and ride the snow. So, yeah,
Very cool.
Love that about him.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so one last question.
Sure.
Looking back,
Yeah.
what would you, on your entire life up to this point, what would you have done differently?
Other than buying those domain names?
Yeah,
back
maybe.
in the internet? You know, it's a really good question. It's, my wife and I talk about it a lot. You know, my first job out of college was working for a temp agency, and I got placed at Nike as an admin because the admin was on vacation, and I was working for the guy in charge of basketball and the guy in charge of all court. And, you know, and I sometimes think, wow, if I would have stuck on at Nike back in 1988
Whoa.
and stayed there, you know, I have friends that did that, that, you know, retired well before me.
Yeah.
And, you know, they would have, you know, I would have had all this money and now all this free time. But every decision I made up until 10 years ago when I met my wife, you know, at the 4th of July fireworks show in Oak Hills, if I would have changed any of those, I never would have met her.
Yeah.
So really nothing outside of, and pull it back into the business. I wish I would have seen 2 or 3 years ago that there would be so much middle housing being built that I would have differentiated the products sooner.
Fair.
But big life things, none of it would have led me to where I am now with my wife and kids, so I wouldn't have changed any of that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate you coming out. You are someone that I've honestly looked up to for quite some time. The first time we met, I went out to interview to help him sell his property, and I had no idea he was a builder. And I'm walking through his beautiful Rummer home in Oak Hills and see some, you know, drawings that he has. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're a builder? Like, I want to be friends with this guy, you know. And years later, we circle back together. So, thank you, Eric, for sharing with us. Let's give Eric a round of applause.
Thank you.
Good job.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys, you got any questions for Eric?
Yeah.
So software sales and real estate seem like very different
Sure.
industries on face value. What skill sets do you think really transferred over, and what was the one that like really surprised you?
You know, I was always in sales and business development, really more business development. And it was, how do you put yourself in the other person's shoes, understand what their needs are, and marry that with your product or service. And that, I think, translates to just about anything, but especially in real estate, especially when you're trying to buy a product from, you know, buy a property from somebody, or trying to sell a property to somebody, or trying to convince somebody to let me build them their project, whether it's their custom home. But, you know, it's this, and it's really just sales 101. It's understand the client's needs and how does your product fit within that, asking just enough questions and then shutting up so that you can listen and really hear what it is that they're telling you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome.
Can you speak a little bit to your investment side of things? You talk about sort of what you're currently doing and working on. I assume you're investing in real estate as well?
You know, it's a very good question. It's like, you know, you said some really kind words, and it's like a lot of the people in here, you guys are much bigger investors than I am. We are just now starting to build and hold our first projects. So for most of the 20 years that I've been at this, it has been build and sell, which isn't, you know, necessarily create that mailbox money, but that's what we've been good at. And for the first time, we've figured out the economics enough where if we can buy a property and the underlying land is such that it's not a whole lot per each of the new units that we're putting on it, that we can build them efficiently enough and have some really great single-family rentals in a market where we have fewer and fewer single-family rentals because people are getting out of that space here in Portland, due to some of the onerous tenant-landlord laws, and so we're really excited about that. Most of them involve finding a somewhat larger property that has an existing house that is situated in the right spot, that you can add that density using whatever aspect of the code is around it, typically rehabbing and splitting off and selling that existing house so that your basis then on the remaining backyard is really low.
Is there like a certain metric that you want to be at? Let's say your basis, you want to be at 200 grand or less for the land or something. Is there a certain number?
It's more if we can be under 40 grand per door.
Per door, got it.
Yeah, we can build a 3-bedroom unit that, depending on the neighborhood, might be able to rent for $2,500 to $3,000 a month. We can build that with the land all in for around $300,000 if we can get that land right. So now you're kind of hitting that magic
1% rule.
1% rule. And it's taken a while to kind of get there and be efficient with not only our building but our land purchasing. Yeah, it's increasingly it's increasingly difficult to sell these houses, especially in parts of the Portland market that are saturated with middle housing. You get up into North Portland, you get out into Woodstock, you might find dozens of houses for sale, but they're all 2-bedroom, 2-bath, about 900 square feet. So we're now building 3-bedroom, and we even have a 4-bedroom plan that we can fit within the confines of the middle housing code. And we're reaching out to landlords who, investors who have single family rentals and they have an underutilized backyard. Either we'll buy their backyard via condo, we'll partner with them, or we'll, be a builder for them so that they can turn their 1-unit property into a 2 or 3-unit property, because they basically have the land for free already. They've got that backyard, and their rent isn't going to take a big hit by adding that density to it.
That's a really good point. I forgot to ask a couple more questions. So what is it now that you're focused on for everyone to know as well?
So we've really got a 3-pronged business model. We build to sell, but we're a lot more selective about it, just based on, if you search today in the RMLS in Portland proper for new construction under 1,500 square feet, I'd say 95% of that is using some aspect of the middle housing code. You're probably going to find 200 houses for sale. That's a lot. And as we all know out there, for those of you who are realtors, the market is slow right now. And so we're being super selective about our spec build to sell, being in premium markets, premium locations, building a premium product that is differentiated. Second aspect we touched on is the build and hold model, which we're really excited about. We've got 9 units under development that we'll be doing that on. And the third part, which I'm probably most excited about, is really expanding our focus into taking our expertise in terms of building middle housing and being a GC for investors and developers who want to add middle housing to their properties and starting to branch out of Portland. So I've got a business partner up in Clark County, and then we're looking at moving down the I-5 corridor, and I was kicking around some ideas in Bend. Yeah.
So you're telling me if Larry here has a property up in Vancouver and it's on a big lot, and Larry says, I want to maximize the income that I'm getting on this, you can go and help him figure that out and put some more house.
We can consult, we can build, we can partner.
Rad.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
What are the financing options to add one to an existing single-family lot?
Good question.
So we on all of our projects are using professional non-bank construction lenders. It's not hard money per se. These are big funds. Their money is very competitive with bank lending. They want to be and require to be in first position. So if you have an investment property and you own it free and clear, it's really pretty easy. You've got enough equity in that will satisfy the ratios of the lender. You can borrow the $300,000 and plop that unit down in the backyard. Even if you don't own it 100% outright, the lenders that we use, I think, are pretty creative where they could take out your first position lender and give you enough money, hopefully, depending on your situation, to not have to bring additional cash to the table and give you the construction funds. And then even if you're planning on holding it, give you the takeout financing on the back end to convert it from that construction loan to the permanent financing.
So I would assume, though, most people don't own their place outright or have very small mortgage on it. So what do you do in that scenario? You just can't? Or you go borrow the money in a more creative route?
Right. It all depends on what you're trying to do. If you're build and hold, you're going to have to find long-term money. If you're build to sell, you've got a property with a house up front and a backyard that you can put 1 or 2 ADUs on, for instance. Be a little bit easier to find that money because you're going to be able to cash that out long term. But each, as you all know, each deal is going to be very different and unique to the ratios and the lenders that are already there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Are these lenders only for Portland area, or do they do national? They operate nationally?
This particular lender, if you grab, I've got cards up here and the postcards, you can reach out. It's a company called Renovo, and they're out of Chicago, and they have offices everywhere. They're really creative, really good. The local guys actually up in Spokane, Washington, that is throughout the Northwest. But happy to make that introduction to anybody.
So you're saying if I have a property, I have extra land, and I'm like, I don't know what to do here, I should just call you and ask you what's possible?
Yeah.
All right.
Would love to.
Yeah.
Love to.
Anybody need to call Eric? Yeah, there we go.
Question? Yeah, I also have a question. So you're no stranger to venture capital and taking on money.
Sure.
When you started Snug or whatever it was before Snug, what was kind of your startup process, and did you take outside capital at the start?
Yeah, really good question. So definitely didn't have a whole ton of money to buy properties with. And so initially it was friends and family. It was people who, believed in me, trusted me, gave them a fair return to invest in buying those spec lots. And then when it would cash out, they, would get their money back. And we still have a lot of those people that are in play. We built houses for people that have become investors for us. And as we look to expand, we're looking at creating a fund that would be a registered investment fund. So it wouldn't be tied to any one particular property, but rather we would have kind of our dry powder that we could then deploy, at properties anywhere, and then they would participate in the portfolio.
That would make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Spread all the expenses across the
Exactly.
portfolio. Yeah, makes a lot more sense.
I'm kind of curious what you're seeing in the cottage cluster market. First of all, kind of what, maybe some of the specifics of how small of a lot do you see for one could work for one of these projects? What size homes, how many?
Yeah.
And then where are they being built? In Portland or outside Portland, or where are you seeing these projects?
We're primarily focused in Portland today. The Middle Housing Code is a statewide code that applies to initially any city with 10,000 or more people. You can do a duplex on a single family zone lot. And in the larger cities, 25,000 or more, obviously that's the entire Portland metro area. I think Newburgh has 25 or 26,000 people, so it applies to, Newburgh and McMinnville and Salem and Medford and Albany. That's where the bulk of the Middle Housing Code plays. Duplex, triplex, fourplex, or the cottage cluster. And that's mandated statewide. Washington has their version of it that's different. California has a version of it. The West Coast is probably the most liberal and progressive when it comes to rezoning and getting rid of single family only zoning. Here in Portland, 5,000 square feet for a cottage cluster. We've got plans. We've kind of come up with what we believe is the magic plan size. It's 16 by 35. A 16 by 35 footprint. We can put 4 of those on a 50 by 100 lot. Or they work great behind an existing house. And we've got 2-bedroom. We have primary on the main and a 3-bedroom with that. We've got a 3-bedroom on the second floor, and we've even kind of, when I say we, our architect broke the code and came up with a 3-story, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath cottage.
Broke the code.
Yeah, but it fits within the, no garages. That's part of really good, so nobody's asked, but you might be getting there. The feedback I would give you is 2-bedroom units are saturated as a build to sell. So, 3-bedroom units, primary on the main floor, nobody's doing that. Location. Our projects that are selling very rapidly, Danny, where's your 23rd and Division? We are 23rd and Sherman, 2 blocks north of Division. We had a 4-unit cottage cluster, A+ location. We built premium, and all 4 of them sold. So if you're building to sell, make sure you're not in an oversaturated market. And
where's that tipping point? How do you determine that? Do you just go search? You just search on RMLS and you say how many are available in this neighborhood.
Exactly. And from a car standpoint, you get outside of the inner southeast, northeast, North Portland, you're going to be in a car-centric part of town unless you're in downtown Beaverton or unless you're
Multnomah Village.
In Multnomah Village or First Edition in Lake Oswego or the Willamette neighborhood in West Lynn.
Yeah.
Outside of those areas, you probably need to plan on, being more car-centric and not just having street parking. Bend, Oregon, you're going to have off-street parking, probably a garage that they're going to not park their car in because that's going to be taken up by their
all their
skis
toys
and their stand-up paddleboard and kayak and everything. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, what's your feeling about St. John's? I don't hear a lot about it. Is there any opportunity or any growth or any?
Love the neighborhood. take a look at the RMLS. There's a lot of 2-bedroom, 2-bath product attached or detached in there. Woodstock, you know, it tends to be where I think the oversaturation is where the existing housing stock is a little less robust and more affordable, and it's kind of a no-brainer that a developer is going to go there because they can get the land for $350,000 as opposed to $450,000. But then you got to figure out that $100,000 delta between a prime Selwood lot versus a St. John's lot, and you put 4 cottages on it, it's $25,000 per door. I can sell a cottage for probably $100,000 more per door in Selwood than I can in St. John's. So I'm willing to pay $450,000 or $500,000 for the dirt in a premium location.
So, you know, you unrelated to my earlier question, you mentioned sort of, you were asking, looking back, what would you have done differently?
Yeah.
Let's say, looking ahead, because I think this is something that's, I'm hearing different currents at work, one of which is things like you're mentioning, lots of development, there's always lots of construction going on, and, you know, there seems to be generally an appetite for it, especially if you can find the stuff that's not saturated. But we've got very high taxes, we've got some outward flight from certain companies that are, you know, so it's kind of like, feels like the city is still growing for sure, but I don't know if it's just a little bit stunted by high interest rates and saturation, and, you know, COVID is over, so there's not as much. Yeah,
and we're still recovering from everything, you know, that happened around George Floyd and COVID.
Yeah. So I guess it's just what's the Gestalt take on 5-year, 10-year? I mean, obviously, if you're still doing this, you think things are growing.
Yeah.
And they will grow over time.
Yeah.
Versus not. It's not an exact question.
No, I participate in a nonprofit group called the Missing Middle Housing Fund. Really, you know, if you're interested, they do a lot of really great work, and it's really more of a think tank and stuff like that. But the demand for workforce housing in all the smaller communities throughout Oregon is real. You know, over on the coast, Newburgh and McMinnville, Boardman, Oregon, which is out by Hepburn where I grew up, up and down the gorge, Redmond and Sisters. You know, there are city officials and employers that are looking for affordable housing for their voters and for their employees.
Well, and nationwide. Like, literally, what is it? Depending on the stat you're looking at, like, we're like short 5.8 million affordable houses nationwide, right? Like, that's insane, you know?
And, you know, so I'm bullish on middle housing, obviously. You take a look at family makeup in Oregon, and it applies nationwide. 80% of households in Oregon are not a nuclear family, married couple with kids. Only 20% are that. So you could make an argument that 20% need a single family traditional home. The other 80% are single adults living by themselves, an adult living with a roommate, young couples that are maybe don't have kids or just starting to have kids. We sold an 800 square foot ADU to a couple with 2 kids. And
wow.
She's a teacher and he is a restaurant manager, and it's right in Colonial Heights. That makes you feel good, right? You know, that they couldn't otherwise live there. You've got divorced parents, you've got downsizers. You know, so 80% of the market, you could make an argument, doesn't need more than 1,000 square feet. Now, they might want more, but you know, you follow the demographics. So very bullish. I think Portland is always going to be, it's the biggest city. It's always going to be less expensive than anywhere else on the West Coast. So, I don't think it's going away. I think they'll figure it out. But in the meantime, there's a whole lot of other places in Oregon, in Washington, that could use this. Yeah. Yeah.
As someone who's building a company right now, it's been surprising seeing like what becomes interesting or enjoyable, like hiring an employee and like wanting to create an employee experience. For you building this company and having worked at very large companies, what is perhaps surprising you right now building this company?
I don't know if I'll answer it directly, but my entire career in the real estate market, I've been a single owner of the company, and I obviously have employees, but the buck stops with me. And it's lonely. And for the very first time, I'm in conversations about basically turning my single owner company into a partnership with somebody else that is extremely complementary. When you're starting a company, you've got to do payroll and HR and taxes and operations and sales and, depending on what it is that the company does. Undoubtedly, you're not passionate about all of those things. And I think it's important to realize, what are you passionate about? What are you good at? And if there's a way to outsource or hire, I've for the last several years had a fractional CFO, because that's not my, running the books and doing the balance sheet and all that. It isn't something that I'm passionate about. The other thing I would say, it's kind of more unsolicited advice. Know your numbers, and if you don't know, if you're not really good at a P&L and a balance sheet and all of that stuff, find somebody who is, and be a slave to it. It will make or break everything that you do. The very first builder that I had was when I built that first house over in Overlook. He was a framer, and then he started a framing crew and grew it to like 6 or 7 framing crews. He was in his 20s. This was in the early 2000s, before the real estate boom. And I don't know how many employees he had. He didn't realize that you had to pay payroll taxes.
Oh no.
It's just, they don't teach that necessarily.
Oh no.
So, surround yourself with people that either do the stuff that you don't love to do, or that know the stuff that you're not good at. Unsolicited, but voice of experience. Yeah.
So, I had a contact with someone. I have 2 properties that potentially could add units in the back. But I got a sticker shock when we started talking price. On average, those 2 bedrooms, 800 to 1,000 square foot. What are like the cost for building those now, if you have the land?
Yeah, we think all in, 2 bedroom, 900 square feet, which is kind of that 800 square feet. That's at max ADU, right? That's here in Portland, with permit fees and plans and everything. And we think we can get that certificate of occupancy 100% complete, including utility connections, for 300 or less. So 800, 900, 1,000 square feet, and that's with our fee and with paying the city and, everything else that comes along with it. So,
and if you can rent that for $3,000 a month, that's the 1% rule. And where can you buy in Portland the 1% rule? You can't. So that's why a lot of people are building. There's a lot of people in Seattle doing this. They're buying these houses and then they're building these ADUs out back, and it's the 1% rule, and it works all day long.
Yeah, there's a guy up in Seattle.
Thatch?
Huh?
Thatch? Are you talking about
No,
Thatch?
the Dadu guy. The
Oh, yeah.
DADU
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah.
So check him out on Instagram or whatever. You know, he puts a lot of really good information out targeted at investors for how to add ADUs to your property. Something else I wish I would have done more, social media. So you're great at it.
I don't know about that. Any other questions, guys? No? All right. Can we give Eric one more round of applause, please?